Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy. Today we're looking at the RCF Final Edition. Lexus is officially getting rid of their awesome V8 sedan. Before we get into this video, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to the Large Miller Lexus here in Murray for giving me some time with this RCF. I'll include a link to their website in the description down below. I'll also include a link to my car buying guide. Let's get right into it. Powering this is a 5-liter V8 that goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission. It's naturally aspirated, puts out 472 horsepower and then 395 pound-feet of torque. And as soon as this car, this is again the final edition. As soon as this car is gone, there will no longer be any V8s in the Toyota product in the United States market. Like, this is officially the end of the line, which is kind of sad. Now, as always, I am trying to hit 500,000 subscribers before the end of the year or at the end of the year, so really appreciate it if you'd help out with that. That'd be awesome. Now, you can see the hood vent there. Kind of a cool look, makes it look a little bit more aggressive, and I feel like they just always do that with like performance-oriented coupes and then sedans as well. Now, I've been a huge fan of this new headlight design they put on the RC a few years ago. It just looks fantastic, and the grille actually makes sense proportion-wise. Like, this is one of the few Lexus grills that doesn't look horrible like the SUVs. And then you do have a carbon fiber front splitter with this as well, which kind of adds to the aggression. But I will say this is pretty modest, and you guys will understand later in the video as to why I think this is pretty modest. But overall, the front end, very aggressive looking. And then the wheels, I think, also have a really cool look to them. You got the big old red brake caliper there to add to the sporty appearance. And this does have upgraded brakes and suspension for this package, for those of you that are wondering. You guys will see that all in the window sticker. I like the little F logo there on the rear caliper. But you also have a vent here on the side, and then we've got the little F badge there, blacked out mirror caps. You know, they're gonna have a lot of contrast, and I think that this one being in the gray coloration looks really good with the overall kind of theme of the car. And there's your side profile. Again, it's more aggressive than like a regular RCF, but not crazy over the top. Carbon fiber roof, which is always a nice feature to add to a car. You know, technically saves weight, lowers the center of gravity, but also just kind of, we all know it's for being cool. Again, the taillights, this is probably the best Lexus taillight design, or one of the best. And then you can see the spoiler there. Not massive, but gets the job done. Of course, you got your RCF badge. And then you got the stacked design for the exhaust tips. And then I love the diffuser as well. They did a really good job with kind of the design here in the lower section. So what this looks like to me is like a slightly more aggressive RCF on the exterior, and it's probably what they're going for with the final edition package, especially considering that they're, pulling this out of production, pulling the V8 out of production. Now, of course, normal Lexus fashion, really nice trim on the door panel, tight fit and finish with the trim, just has a more premium appearance and feel. Got the little carbon fiber there around the window and mirror controls, and then it has stuff like memory seats. Again, this is a luxury car at the end of the day, so it's going to have some niceties to it. Blind spot monitoring with the mirrors. It also has, modern safety tech. Now, the rear seats are more for storage rather than people, but they do exist, and there's some cool contrast. So you can see the red on the front, but then this the back is all blacked out, and then we've got more red there on the seats. They're power adjustable, and Lexus seats are extremely comfortable, by the way. Even in these sportier cars, they're still very comfortable. Nice finish there on the pedals. And then you can see stuff like the parking sensors, and then you got for the blind spot monitoring, and then the steering wheel is power adjustable with this car as well. And Alcantara wrap steering wheel, so adds to that kind of sportier theme that this is going for. And you got all your practical controls. And seeing this car, this is the first Lexus in a while that I've seen that has the older tech in it. I kind of miss the older Lexus tech. It just looks, I don't know, more tactile. Paddle shifters, though, speaking of tactile there. And then this has the gauge cluster that I think is a great analog digital combination, because you can move that little unit to the side, and this has a digital element. Nice trim here on the dash. Again, you got more Alcantara there above the gauge cluster situation. Infotainment system. Again, it's Lexus's older unit with the keypad and all of that. Not great compared to the new one. That's the one thing that's a downside with these is the infotainment system. But you do get more physical controls, and you got more Alcantara on the shift knob there, so that also kind of adds to the sporty appearance. And then your drive mode select with the dial. I think it's kind of iconic, that whole setup right there. But yeah, the trackpad, and then it is numbered right there, 49 of 200. So this is it. This is the end for this. And then I thought the center console lid looked pretty nice as well. Again, ties in with the interior. But yeah, I mean, the interior on this is it's nice in normal Lexus fashion. But of course, this does come at a price. So here's a window sticker. This is where you can see that they've upgraded stuff. You know, limited slip differential. You've got the Brembo brakes and everything. And then here's the specific, so that's RCF, sorry, but this is the specific to the Final Edition. The Final Edition is mostly just an appearance package on an RCF, and it doesn't come cheap. So there's your base MSRP, and after all options, not quite 100 grand, not the most expensive RCF, but close to it. Now, we're going to be driving not this car, but a car that I drove a few years ago, and that is the Fuji Raceway Edition. I'll have a couple clips right here where you can see what it looks like. This is what I think this Final Edition should have looked like super big spoiler, super aggressive. Let me know if you agree or disagree, but this was definitely a cool car. It's going to drive very similar, so that's why I'm including the driving impressions in this video, so hopefully you guys appreciate that. And the interior on this was way more red. Let's talk about visibility before we set off here in the RCF Fuji. So first off, you guys can see we've got visibility of the hood through both of the mirrors, and then throughout the rest of the rear. And I know some people comment on the spoiler there in the back being annoying. It really doesn't get in the way of the visibility all that much. Yeah, it's in the middle of the window, but like it doesn't bother me whatsoever. But anyways, let's set off. So we're gonna be setting off here in the RCF, traction control all the way off. I can't go full throttle because I would literally end up off of the road because it's cold, it's raining, and yeah. So now we're in third gear, so now I can pretty much... That V8 sounds so good. And now that we're at a little bit higher speeds, you guys can hear the tires. Like, I will do that again just for demonstration purposes. And if you're wondering, that beeping is because we were going right up to the red line. And just like the LC500, you can bounce off of the rev limiter on this. Lexus lets you do that, and it sounds really cool. And I will try to do it in a little bit. It's kind of hard because, again, the rain and everything. But yeah, something I said this earlier in the walk around is, again, sport mode is the mode to be in. The Sport Plus is so rough with the suspension. Like, I'll pop over into the Sport Plus for just a second. It's just like bone-jarringly rough, and you can hear all of the rocks and everything going against the chassis. This thing's so fun. Yeah, it just, I don't know if you guys can see, but it's just constant up and down. So yeah, sport mode is the mode to be in. Otherwise, it is just way too rough from a driving perspective. Okay, now that we are, of course, in Mexico, it sounds so cool, and the downshifts are so violent. And you know what? This is actually gripping pretty well. I can't go full. Like, I was going full throttle there for a second, and it just pushes out of the corners so hard. Yeah, this car's crazy. Again, this is not ideal conditions. I'm sorry, but I mean, this is just proving how good this car is. The fact that we're on these performance tires, it's like 40 degrees outside, it is cold, and we're still managing to not end up in the side of the road in a ditch with this $100,000 one of 60. And when it steps out, it's very controllable. Even with all the computers turned off, it's just, this car is so well balanced. Oh my goodness, so much fun. So yeah, let's kind of get into summing things up for this review. And I do want to mention, I am going to be posting a longer point of view video on my second channel. I'm going to wait for the rain to clear up here in Utah, and I'm going to go up one of the canyons. Hopefully I can end up doing this. Sorry if it doesn't end up happening. I'm gonna do my best, but I want to do like a point of view video, just like the whole video point of view driving, so you guys can just listen to the car, have some fun, all that kind of stuff. But anyways, this Fuji edition, first off, exterior wise, I think this looks better than the LC500. I love the styling of the RCs, and the RCF is even better, and this Fuji edition is even better. Again, I know some people might not like the wing. I like it. I think it looks so cool. Interior wise, beautiful. Now the LC500 does have a little bit more nice material use all around, like on the dash and everything, compared to this, so I will give the LC500 a win from an interior perspective, but they're pretty dang close. Now from a driving perspective, it's interesting. I do prefer the sound of the LC500. They definitely muffle any of the other F products. I've noticed the GSF is quiet, the new IS500, and then the RCF, and then this track, or not track edition, I almost said track edition, it's just like the track edition pretty much, but this Fuji edition, so much quieter compared to the LC500. So it's kind of interesting, even though this has a titanium exhaust. I don't know why they went for that route, but you know, they decided to go that route. Anyways, aside from the sound, the driving dynamics are so much better. Like, this is just so much tighter. It's still just as comfortable as the LC500 from a luxury car perspective, but like the handling characteristics are just that much better. Like, it's so controllable, it's so much fun. I definitely prefer the handling to this. So literally, if you just took this car and gave it a ladder exhaust, I would take this over an LC500 any day of the week. But as it stands stock, that exhaust is hard to say no to. And also, I guess the 10-speed that the LC has is also really cool. And I want to punch it, but I can't. I gotta like ease into it. Do you see that? Just completely like no traction whatsoever. Yeah, that 10-speed's great. I wish the Lexus would throw that 10-speed in this, because this transmission's really responsive when you're on the throttle and when you're at high RPMs. When you're at lower RPMs like this, it's still, that's like, you notice that at higher RPMs, the transmission's just so much more responsive. So at the top end, it's great, but you can see right there, not as good as the 10-speed. So I will dock at that. And then obviously I got to give this a score. So $100,000 performance two-door car. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. And the reason I'm going to give it that score is the only thing that I can really fault this car for is just needs to be louder, but that's easy, aftermarket exhaust. And then the transmission's great at the limit, but when you're not driving at the limit, it is a little bit sluggish. But other than that, I mean, naturally aspirated V8, rear wheel drive, the driving dynamics this car has, it's like perfect. And I mean, this is one of 60, so like, you have like bragging rights for having a car that's going to be rarer than your friend's Lamborghini. Just saying, because like, well, unless they have like a Centenario or something like that. But anyways, that is the RCF Fuji. I love this thing, and that's all.